Hello everyone and welcome to A Troll's Fairy Tale. Welp, let's go. I'm not too sure about this, Mom. Alaqua, please. If we want this to work, then I need your full support. You know how difficult your sister can be. Turning over in my bed, I could hear the hushed whispers of my mother and sister just outside my bedroom door, and the noise of some rowdy teenagers from outside. With my diary still in hand, I must have fallen asleep while reading some old sad entries and writing in new ones. Oh, sorry, so ladylike, right? Anyway, excuse me.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, you know, you're going to be talking about trolls, so...
Anyway, with the Arbutas Festival coming up soon, you could almost feel the excitement and anticipation in the air. Unfortunately for me, all I felt was stress and agitation. Reading at its finest. My mother has heard a lot of stupid gossip and rumors about how if you don't find a mate by your 23rd birthday, you end up alone forever. Well, I'm 24 now and will be turning 25 this following spring. Yay me. But Mom, that guy is such a stink bag. Isn't there someone else you can set her up with? Language, Missy. We may be trolls, but I didn't work my fingers to the bones to raise such foul-mouthed... With a sigh, I closed my diary and scooted off my bed. I could hear my mother lecturing my sister about how hard she worked as a single parent, only wanting the best for her girls, and so on and so forth. Opening the door, I glanced over at my sister. Her lips were pressed in a tight line, a look of disdain on her face as our mother continued on about all the different relationships she'd had in her younger years, and the importance of saving yourself for marriage. Mama, please stop. This is extremely disturbing and gross. Oh. Acacia, good morning, dear. I heard my sister let out a sigh of relief as her wrinkled brows relaxed now that Mom had turned her attention to me. Thank God. As I made my way to the living room, I could hear the noise of the group of kids from outside grow louder. Did they have no respect for a troll's personal property? Looking annoyed over at my sister, I motioned her to go do something about them. With a nod, she walked towards the window. You'll never guess who I ran into today. Blah. The energetic sound in my mother's voice made my stomach knot. I could feel my chest tighten and a slight headache start to throb at my temples. I love my mother, but she has the absolute worst taste when it comes to picking out men, and whenever I try to stop her, she throws a big fit, and I didn't really want to go through this today. I wanted to hurry up and get this over with, so I could get to the shop and try out this new pastry I made for a special occasion. Do I really have to guess? You can go ahead and just tell me. It's one of the neighboring clan's eldest son. I just so happened to run into his mother while at the shop. And when I offered her one of those treats you made, she was blown away by the flavor and delicate texture. Tilting her head back, she let out a triumphant laugh. But I wasn't amused at all when I heard she gave away one of my snacks. She never expected to find such a high-end delicacy at our little pastry stand. That's why you should never underestimate... Wait, what did you give? Did you give her the blue one or the pink one? A small crease showed between her eyebrows as she thought. The pink one, I think? Why? Great. With another heavy sigh, I plopped down on the couch, feeling a little more dejected today than usual. It didn't really help that the rowdy bunch of kids outside were getting louder. With an annoyed look, I peered over at my sister to see if she was going to tell them to leave, but I saw her gaze was locked on one of the boys, who is now topless and laughing loudly. To be young and stupid. What was that? What was it that you wanted to show me? Here, look at this. Giving my leg a swat to scoot over, she sat down beside me and shoved a picture in my face. Doesn't he look charming? After taking a quick glance at the picture, I grunted no and laid my head down in her lap. Acacia, what's wrong with you? You obviously have no taste in men. Mom, the man looks like he's 15 years older than me, and he looks really cocky in that picture. Let me see. With her attention now pulled away from the group of boys, Alacria leaned halfway over the couch and examined the picture. Well, you agree with me, don't you, sweetie? With a firm shake of her head, my sister crumpled up the paper and handed it to me, and with one swift movement, I popped it into my mouth and started to chew it. Acacia, that's disgusting! Don't... But before she could say anything else, I heard a loud crash from outside. I jumped up. Jumping up, I walked over to our back door. My mind was set on putting an end to all of the noise going on out there. Acacia? Swinging the doors open, still chewing the paper I had around at my mother's trampled flower bed and broken flower pots. Narrowing my eyes, I saw muddy footprints that stained the stones leading up to our door and back out towards the field where the group of boys were roughhousing. Acacia, don't go out like that! Fix up yourself. You look like a hot mess. Hey, madam.
Yeah.
Should we grab something to wrap up our hair quick? Or there's no time for that, just ignore her.
Oh, just ignore her.
Alright, we'll ignore her. Ignoring my sister's screeching, I made my way up to the group of boys. I could see the dirt and the trampled flower petals smeared on the cuffs of their pants.
Hey, you guys, look who's coming this way!
The boy who my sister was staring at so intently nudged some of his friends to get their attention. An amused look was on his face.
Come to enjoy the view?
Go clean up that mess you made in my mother's flower garden. Whilst still chewing the paper, I nudged my head back towards the ruined flower bed. Glancing over at the flowers and turning his gaze back to me, he wrinkles his nose in disgust.
Maybe if your cute sister came out here to ask us, I'd probably do that. But since it's you...
His voice trailed off as he looked me up and down with his friends laughing beside him. With one quick motion, I snatched him up by his hair and dragged him back to the flower bed. Ew.
The urge to spit the water paper right in his face briefly crossed my mind, but I decided to act against it. Disgusting? Yes. Do I care? No, I'm a troll. I do whatever I feel like doing.
Get your hands off me, you ugly mutt!
Look at you trying to insult me in front of your snot-nosed friends. Good job, kid. You're a big boy now.
He continued to kick and thrash about while I dragged him along effortlessly at arm's length. What are you doing? Let me go! Once I finally made my way to the flower bed, I tossed him head first into the mud. His friends stood behind me, speechless. Giving them a sidelong glare, they all tensed up and looked the other way.
This will teach you not to mess with a troll's garden. Now I suggest you and your little gang start cleaning up this mess you made.
I watched as he struggled to wipe the dirt from his eyes and mouth, all while throwing every insult his little immature mind could muster up at me. Glancing over, I saw my sister, who was now hunched over, hiding behind the window. Her face was flushed with embarrassment. I could see my mother sitting on the couch, shaking her head while rubbing her temples. A pang of guilt stabbed my chest. You know who you're messing with! Turning my attention back to the boy, I watched as his friends finally scampered to his side to help clean him up. I have special connections to the Unicorn Nation and the Golden Prince himself.
So?
I said flatly while crossing my arms over my chest and leaning against the doorpost. Biting my lip, I had to stop myself from laughing out loud when I saw the total look of confusion plastered on his face. Kids these days. Don't you know who the Golden Prince is? Turning my head, I finally spit out the wad of paper in my mouth. The kid reeled back in disgust as it landed with a soft plop in the dirt beside his feet. Picking some of the stray pieces of paper out of my teeth, I turned my gaze to him.
Look, kid, stop stalling and just clean up this mess. I'll even go easy on you and won't make you replant everything.
You must be out of your mind. I'm not cleaning up anything. You can't make me.
Really?
With a smirk, I took a step towards them, and instinctively they all took one step back. Even with his empty threat, they obviously knew how dangerous it was to mess with a troll. Although I wouldn't be so confident in the outcome if I was facing a full-grown unicorn right now. But lucky for me, I only had to scare these pups instead. Trolls are known for their brute strength, but unicorns have the upper hand with their weird powers and stamina. You better stay away from us if you know what's good for you. With a laugh, I shook my head and took another step closer to them. I wasn't going to do anything too damaging to them. I just wanted to give them a little scare. Besides, I still had work that I needed to do at our small pastry stand.
Kid, just clean up your mess and I'll back off.
You can't make me!
You bet that I can?
Reaching out, I grabbed the boy's ear and gave it a pinch and twist. Ouch! What the heck is wrong with you?
I'll rip your stupid little ear right off if you don't get your butt over there and start.
Just then I heard a low whistle followed by the sound of hands clapping behind me. Well now, isn't this interesting? I suddenly felt strong hands grabbing hold of my wrist. A scent of cinnamon and spice hit my nostrils as I looked up to see who it was that had the nerve to grab me. This is us, by the way.
Alright. Kind of figured that.
Yeah. With a gasp, I reeled back when I saw that I was standing face to face with the Prince of the Unicorns, or as some others say, the Golden Prince of the Land.
Eek.
His silver eyes bore into mine. His icy silver eyes bore into mine. Reading! His beautiful features were envied by all the trolls in my clan and adored by the entire female population. Lost in my train of thoughts, I saw an arrogant smile spread across his lips. The last thing I wanted to do was give him the satisfaction of knowing that I was swooning over him. I roughly snatched my wrist out of his hand and straightened up, trying to maintain my dignity. But before I could say anything, he suddenly let out a staffed laugh while eyeing me from head to toe.
Can I help you with something, Your Highness?
Sure, since you're offering. First, don't call me Your Highness. Prince Damine will do just fine.
Arrogant little.
And secondly,
with one smooth movement, he pulled a lock of my hair hanging by my hair and gently rubbed it between his fingers.
you might want to do something about this bird's nest of a mess you call hair before going out into public again. He's mocking our beautiful name!
My mouth hung open in complete shock. A woman's hair was her glory and something all trolls in my clan prided themselves on. Even if their skin was rough and their features somewhat unpleasant, at least they had hope in their beautiful hair. Slapping his hand away, I snarled down at the boys who were now all cowering behind the prince. If I catch you near my mother's flower garden again, I'll rip your toes off and shove them in your eye sockets. With one last narrow look at the prince, I shoved past him and tried to escape back inside.
I'm curious about something, Buttercup.
That's not my name, and I'm done talking to you, so... My words fell on deaf ears because he continued to talk as if I hadn't said anything at all.
Seeing how the festival is near, you would think that you wouldn't come out of the house looking so mangled. I'm sure your appearance alone has probably scared off any potential suitors that might have passed this way.
I stopped dead in my tracks and could feel anger rushing over me like a wave. I heard his footsteps walking toward me and then abruptly stopping right behind me. The smell of cinnamon and spice floated toward my nose as once again I felt him lower his head toward my shoulder.
You wouldn't happen to be participating in the festival this year, would you? Judging by your appeal, it looks like you've been on a pretty long losing streak. He said in a low whisper as I
Felt his breath brush against my cheek, and I felt his hand tug at another strand of my hair. How is he not finding me a mate considered a losing streak? With my fist clenched at my side, I did something that would probably be the talk of the town for years. I punched the Golden Prince. I felt the strong impact of my fist hitting his right cheek and watched as he fell back and looked up at me, staggered. Without a second to lose, I hightailed it out of there before my mother and sister came running through the door. It would be better to hide out at our bakery instead of stay here and wait for unspeakable horrors to unfold. As I ran away, I could hear the screeching of my mother's voice in the distance. Acacia! I couldn't believe that I'd actually punched the Unicorn Prince. Of course, I've gotten into plenty of fights in my lifetime, and unfortunately gotten a weird reputation because of that. But never had I gotten in fight with a prince. I decided to spend the rest of the morning hiding out in the shop with a cloth tied over my head to hide my hair, just in case he had a bounty out for me or something. I didn't want to be easily recognized. Word got around quickly about the incident. I spent the rest of the day making pastries in the shop while waiting for things to die down a little. The rest of the morning passed, but uneventfully, and I breathed a sigh of relief as it was finally getting close to closing time. My mother arrived just a few hours ago to rip me a new one about my actions towards the prince. I could tell she was still upset because of the way she was slamming each cabinet door shut. I didn't feel bad about punching the prince, but what did make me feel sad was the fact that my mother was disappointed in me. Ever since my dad left us when I was 3, she's always worked so hard to raise me and my sister all on her own. She'd had enough on her plate as it already was, and I hated being the cause of excess stress to her life. So with a heavy sigh, I put down the broom that I was using and cautiously made my way to her side. Mama? Her lips were pressed in a tight, straight line as she kept her eyes forward and continued to arrange the pantry while moving on to slamming drawers shut. Mama, I'm sorry. Mama, I can tell you're mad, but can't you at least look at me?
I'm not mad. Exasperated, maybe. Gulled, indignant, irritated, piqued, provoked, riled, sure. But mad. No, I'm not mad.
Mom. With a whine, I rested my head on her shoulder and tried to give her the saddest puppy eyes that I could muster, but it failed horribly because looking cute and pathetic was not my forte, and all I got out of that was a good whack to the forehead.
Answer me something, Acacia. Why is it that you've been attending this festival for over 6 years now, and you still end up alone each and every time?
With a sigh, I lifted my chin off her shoulder and took a step back. I really didn't feel like having this depressing talk all over again. I get it, each year I come back home alone.
Why don't you want to get married?
I do, Mom, but...
But what? It's not like you haven't had the chance to finally settle down. What happened with the last young man at last year's festival?
That guy was a whiny little punk.
I heard you kicked him in his junk and shoved his face into the hole of a willow tree trunk.
I remember that. That guy couldn't take no for an answer. And I wanted to taste the grapes before buying the whole bag, if you know what I mean. He was a jerk and wouldn't shut his whining up, so I gave him something to whine about. I said while leaning back on the table and crossing my arms over my chest.
He seemed like such a good boy, Acacia. I don't understand why.
Mama, please, I don't want to settle for just anyone. When I do find someone, I want it to be...
To be what?
I could feel my mother's eyes studying me while my words trailed off, and I lowered my head in embarrassment. I want it to be like those love stories in those fairy tale books you used to read us. A bitter laugh escaped my mother's lips as she turned away from me. All the pain and hurt she went through with my dad buried away any and all thoughts of true love and happy endings from my mom's heart.
There's a reason why it's a story, Acacia. True love like that doesn't exist.
I could hear a twinge of hurt in her voice as she turned back towards me. Her deep brown eyes became hardened as stone.
You should never marry for love, because love is weak and will leave over time.
Then what should I marry for?
Money.
My mother had always been a realistic type of person, but to hear her say that made her seem cold.
And since we're talking about this, I've went ahead and signed you up to participate in the festival meet and greet.
The what?
Wiping her hands off on her apron, I watched her pull out a neatly folded piece of paper from one of her pockets and hand it to me. Some of the kings and queens from the different nations thought it would be a good idea to put this together. They thought this could help promote peace between the different nations and also help those who might be a little shy to have a chance to find a possible suitor.
Sighing, I read over the paper and saw many different activities that were planned to happen from the first day up until the last night of the festival. Mom, I'm a little too old to keep having you try to set me up with someone or to go to weird gatherings like this.
I really don't think you have any ground to be telling me that right now. You punched a unicorn, the prince, no doubt, for goodness sake. I'm amazed that poor boy didn't press charges against you or have you executed on the grounds of treason or something. I just noticed that she's no longer yelling because her face.
Uh-huh.
How long have I ever been recording?
I don't know.
This was episode 1 with
Madam Sparkle.
Madam Sparkle and Silvercat. Bye!